as much as the Rams won this game, the Bengals lost it.
Yes.
They got lucky in this game, and what I mean by lucky in this game, I mean T. Higgins scored a 75-yard touchdown where he twisted like I have a joke here involving Adrian Peterson. I'm not going to use it.
Wise.
Thank you. That was lucky. Obviously, he scores that 75-yard touchdown. The dropped pass that turned into an interception for them. So you get those lucky plays for you. And then the second half, I mean, they were a nightmare offensively, a disaster. And I'll go, I think, the thing that kind of summed it up for me was on that 3rd and 4th down, right? So the 3rd down, they handed off. You pointed out that they handed it off to Samaje Perine.
Well, he's Samaje Perine to me.
Yeah. Instead of Joe Mixon, I mean, say what you want about running backs, like was probably, he was easily one of their top 3 players in this game.
He played well.
Played really, really well. How you can run the ball there and give it to Perine instead of Mixon is an embarrassment. I think in that situation, you have to get to the line quickly. You have to get Joe Burrow up there under center. The threat of the sneak has to be there.
Yeah.
And you have to try and get a quick count. Not doing that, playing it slow, I thought that was a huge mistake. And then on the 4th down, they line up in the shotgun and they throw the ball. I just thought those back-to-back plays by Taylor were really poor. And that was coming off of a first half where he certainly outcoached Sean McVay and had that trick play that was really, really solid. So this was not a great performance for a team that had overcome a lot of stuff in the second half of games in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. I think the real pain that's going to be for the Bengals, right? We talked about whether this means more to the Rams or the Bengals. I shied away from saying this means more to the Rams than to the Bengals. I agree that that's true, but I think the magnitude was smaller than what everybody said. The Rams were a weak team today. They lost one of their best players. Their head coach was outcoached by your coach. Let's be really honest. Like Zach Taylor, there were some things that obviously weren't great, right? The end of game sequence, the calling a timeout in the end of the half, that didn't end up killing him. But for the most part, they didn't run on early. They didn't put Burrow in bad situations early in the game, right? Ultimately, the talent differential up front killed them. But I thought that Zach Taylor kept that from happening as late into the game as maybe humanly possible, right? Mm-hmm. And then you had the defense, and again, Lou Amuro, he's the guy that's like their defense coordinator. I thought he had a great game plan just even before the Beckham injury. So like I thought collectively the Bengals outcoached the Rams, and at the same time, and you had the injury to not only Beckham but Stafford. Stafford wasn't moving around very well. You had all these things go your way. You had the missed call on the face mask to Higgins. That game was winnable for the Bengals, right? And you have to win that game.
That's why I'm going to disagree with you here. And I'm going to ask you this question here in a second, which is Sean McVay is a top blank coach in the NFL because there's going to be talk about whether he's going to retire. And I'm assuming that this is really a ploy, not a ploy, but like hey, pay up Kroenke, right? Because now he's won a Super Bowl, could have been 0 for 2 in the Super Bowl. Instead, he's got the Super Bowl at home after going all in. Look, he fell in love with Matt Stafford over margaritas in Cabo. Right. Literally, like I'm not exaggerating at all. Like they did this story before the game. They both ended up at a pool in Cabo. Kelly Stafford told the story of like they started talking, they didn't stop. She was like, I just went to the bar and started drinking. And like by the end of that day, they decided they wanted to play with one another. So he calls Kroenke ripped on tequila and is like, listen, Matt Stafford's our guy. We're out here taking tequila shots. And he comes through, okay, with the victory. So the early down running and the continuous running of the football was not great. I'm not going to give up, Odell Beckham Jr. goes down with a knee injury. That's part of how you constructed your team, right? You were a top-heavy team, and you decided you want to win that way. You still had the best receiver in the NFL out there, okay? So, like, I don't think that's some huge, I wouldn't go, oh my God, he overcame this, incredible injury and was still, no, I mean, look at the Packers, right? They go with Devontae Adams and a bunch of scrubs all over the place. Van Jefferson's not a terrible receiver, right? So that's not going to get a pass for me. But I will say this. The last touchdown drive called very, very well by him. And the fourth down was an obvious fourth down. It was about a 6% edge to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
On their side of the field, it was the 33, I want to say, close to there. Not only does he go for it, but he didn't call. He could have easily been really stubborn, put Akers back there, and ran Akers up the gut. But at least in that moment, he learned from his mistakes in that game.
Yeah. And
he had a wonderful play call to Cooper Kupp. Now, I'm not going to do that I told you so, because my biggest W was betting Cooper Kupp over half a rushing yard, because I thought that they would get creative with him in some situation, because I think Akers stinks. You're welcome. But that one play, and that's the importance of fourth downs. If you can get those right, you can overcome a lot of things. So I'm going to give McVay a ton of credit for that, even though he did a lot of things in this game that were poor, and I think he outcoached Taylor in this game, and that's why they got the victory. So
you think he outcoached Taylor in this game?
Not even close. Not even close. Zach Taylor was spotted like 14 points in this game, thanks to luck, and peed it down his leg.
Okay. I'm sort of the belief. Well, I'm sort of the belief that you didn't. Like, I think that the difference between the Rams defensive line and the Bengals offensive line, like, we got so thick into the weeds the last 2 weeks that I think, like, a lot of people even understated it a tad, right?
I don't think understated that discrepancy. That was the only thing people talked about.
I don't think it was the only thing people talked about. That was, like, I think my point is, like, I believe that.
I will say this. At least 85% of every reason that I heard across
was the
media
matchup up front.
Was that matchup up front.
But a lot of people still picked the Bengals, and I guess the Bengals.
Well, the Bengals covered. Yeah.
The Bengals covered. Okay. All right. Well, because I actually think the Bengals gave themselves more of a chance than maybe. I think because I don't think Joe Burrow played terrific. Did the
Bengals give themselves a chance, or did the Rams and the refs give them a chance? Like a dropped interception, and then T. Higgins. T. Higgins, I don't think I can underscore this enough. T. Higgins goes 75 yards for a touchdown. The rest of the I should look this up. I'm going to try to in a second. After that play, what did they average yards per play wise? Like 1? Like that was.
It was bad. It was a bad second half. Yep.
And I'll say this.
Nixon had 5 catches today for 1 yard.
So this is why I'll say I thought that they were a little bit outcoached. So who was the weakest link on the Bengals in coverage? It was Senior Apple, right? Eli Apple. He was targeted 9 times in coverage. The weak link for the Rams was not Jalen Ramsey, who, by the way, was targeted 9 times, tied for the most. Darius Williams was that weak link. We talked about that with T. Higgins. Nice cash there, by the way, on the
Higgins anytime.
Higgins anytime and most receiving yards in the game, right? Darius Williams was the weak link. He was targeted only 4 times in coverage. To me, it was kind of actually what we talked about, which was that Zach Taylor didn't really have, he had the mix and throw, right? And that was it. Nothing else was particularly creative. And in the second half, they weirdly got away from what was winning in the first half, which were quick throws. And it cost them the game.